Welcome everyone to Saturday Night Live Life Recovery. Life Recovery. I was thinking about that the last few days about life recovery, and I thought I needed to just talk a little bit about that because, we all know that life is messy, and we're all living in this messy life, and it's a challenge to function sometimes in a real difficult situation, and a lot of us like to isolate when we get involved in some things that are just overwhelming or over our head, because we think that we should be able to do it, and we think we should be able to do it on our own. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
How'd that work out for us?
Sometimes not well.
Not well. And that's the reason why it's so important to have some connections. In fact, if you want to use a biblical reference here, the reason why God created man was to have fellowship with him, and the reason why he created woman was so that man would not be alone. What do you think about that? So, sometimes addiction to being alone works against us. Now, there's always a time that we need a little separation, but total separation has a negative effect. Do you agree with that?
Yes, sir.
So tonight we're going to be step one. And we're going to be, step one, of course, is we admitted that we were powerless over our problems. And that's what I'm just talking about. These problems, when it's a problem, oftentimes the reason why it is a problem is because we're not able to handle it. And so therefore, we don't have very much or any power in that situation. That's what step one is, recognizing it, admitting it, because we don't like to admit things, right? And that's what today's lesson is going to be talking about, is the dangerous self-deception. What do you think about that?
Indeed.
And that's going to be out of Judges 16, 1 through 31. And our real problem, if you really look at it, is found in the areas of the lies we tell ourselves. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
And now, I'm going to ask you a question. How about that? What is dangerous self-deception? What is that? What does that mean?
When we let when we go against our own better judgment and then justify, like try to convince ourselves why it's okay or why it's harm.
Oh, convincing ourselves. And what would you call that?
What? You're lying to yourself, certainly deception.
Okay, so that's self-deception then, right? So convincing ourselves. So you're telling me that, and by the way, I looked up self-deception, and it's talking along the same line here, is that we are convincing ourselves of something that's not true, or that's a lie. And that means, listen to that, we're convincing ourselves of something that's not true. We are convincing ourselves of something that we want to believe, but we know it's not true.
And it's harmful to us.
And it's hard. Yes, it'll kill you. Okay? Building your life on a lie is not productive, right? But self-deception is we convince ourselves that to believe something that we know that's not true. John, that's the microwave. And so my thought was, why would we do that? Well, maybe I should ask a question. Why would we do that? Why would you do that?
Get my way.
To get your way?
Trying to get my way.
Get your way to, and what does that mean?
Then I can, like you said, justify it.
You justify it. because that's what you want. You don't care if it's destructive or harmful. I just want it
For the moment.
for the moment, right?
And I seem to think there's some kind of selfishness in there, but you know, it's just.
And so we would do that to ourselves. Now, some people say that it's impossible to choose to believe something that you know is true. They say it's hard, you can't do it. And I was thinking today, if you can, thank you, John, if you can convince yourself of something that you know that's not true, that's a lie, then why couldn't we maybe even easier convince ourselves of something that we know that's true? Have you ever thought of that? Anybody ever think of that?
Taking a lot less energy.
Unless we've convinced ourselves of a lie and then having to reprogram that, it may be a little bit of a challenge. But my point here is, now this goes back to my rational emotive therapy studies that I studied many years ago, and that is that when you decide what is true and you know it's true, then you have to choose to practice to believe and practice to believe that is true. Why should I practice what is true, which I know is true, but I want to believe that lie? And why do I believe that lie? Maybe because I've had it for so long, it has to be true because it's always been there. And so, but it's a lie. I know it's a lie. I know it's not true. So what I have to do is I know what the truth is here, so I have to practice that truth. And if I practice that truth, eventually I'll come to the place that I'll accept that truth and know that truth is true. And the reason why I want to do that is because believing the truth is really in my best interest. That's the bottom line. What's in your best interest? And tonight we're going to be talking about this dangerous self-deception. And
some examples, maybe?
well, yeah, there'll be some. There'll be some. And of course, you could give us a couple hundred if you want.
from this week.
And so anyway, we'll be talking about that. And by the way, to our internet audience, I'm glad you're with us tonight. The band is not going to be with us tonight, so it's just going to be us'ns. And so we're glad you're with us also. And I'm glad that all you guys are here. So I want to read a couple of quotes, thoughts that I have written down. I haven't got to do this for a while, and I was looking for Matthew because he always likes to work me over on him. But this is a Carl Jung. Anybody familiar with Carl Jung? C.G. Jung. He's one of the fathers of psychology. He says a paradoxical views that are not, we're talking about our views, and it lines up with what we're talking about here in a degree, says paradoxical views that are not made conscious will be played out in the world of fate.
In the world of what?
Fate. In other words, in like you'll call it fate or karma, or you'll call it something, you know. But the fact of it is, because we have dual views going on, and we're not willing to be aware of what's going on. Particularly the negative things that come up in our life will show up, and we think, well, that's just fate that did that, or. And so he's saying that what we need to do is be aware of this. And tonight, when we're talking about this self-deception, if we can become aware of our own hands that's doing that to us, feeding our minds with the self-deception, if we can become aware of that, that doesn't mean that you can fix it all at once, but at least now you're aware, because awareness is the first step of recovery, right? And then there's work and practice after that. Growth, development. And so I thought that would be a good one to throw in here. And to give you a reprieve from that headiness, I have this statement here that I really like, and I've had it on my sheet for several months, but I haven't got a chance to read it, so I'm going to read it tonight. How about that? And it kind of speaks to our times right now, what's going on in our world. It says, hard times create strong men. What do you think about that? So we ought to be creating some strong men right about now. Wouldn't you agree with that? I think we are. And it goes on and says, hard times create strong men. Strong men create good times. Yes? Good times create weak men. Weak men create hard times.
So it's a circle.
It's a circle. And, we have the Old Testament that really lays that pattern out, how the children of Israel went through that cycle. And if we don't, I don't know that we have to fully live in that circle, but the life pattern is kind of that way. And if we're not careful, we're just picked and carried along with that tide, that circle tide. So, anyway, I thought I'd just throw that out. And I had a couple others, but I think I'll save them for another day. So, John, are you reading the 12 steps tonight?
I guess, somebody else do.
Okay. Matthew was supposed to do that, but he's not here, so how about if you do it, that'd be all right. Be good?
Yep.
So, any thoughts before John reads 12 steps? I'm glad you're here, all right? Sorry about last week, and
You did not create the weather,
I,
so.
this is true, I did. I'm not in control, but I am responsible.
No matter how much you want to, you're not in control.
Yeah, I'm not in control, but I am responsible. Come on up here, John. Let me see if I can find it. There it is. Thanks, John.
I'm not as tall as Doug.
Yeah.
We admitted that we were powerless over our problems and that our lives had become unmanageable. We came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. We made a decision to turn our wills and our lives over to the care of God. We made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. We admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. Step 6, we were entirely ready to have God remove these defects of character. Step 7, we humbly asked God to remove our shortcomings. Step 8, we made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. Step 9, we made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. We continued to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. 11, we sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God, praying only for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry it out. Step 12, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we tried to carry out this message to others and to practice these principles in all of our affairs. Thank you very much.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, John. Does anybody need any of our life recovery bracelets?
Oh,
Yes?
What time?
90 days, I'm at about 105 now.
Okay.
I'll look at but the 90 days, please.
Well, congratulations.
Which one is that?
90 is maroon. Okay. Anyone else? Anyone else? A white bracelet is for 30 days. Orange is for just today, up to 30 days, and then orange is for 30 days. Green for 60 days, maroon's 90 days, blue is 6 months, and yellow is 9 months, and glow in the dark is 1 year, gray is 18 months, and black is 2 years, 5 years is silver, 10 years is gold.
Oh, very good. Thank you
So-
very much.
All right, and any of you out in video land, if you want one of these bracelets that are like this, and it's got, what did we have on there? We have Saturday Night Live on here, yes, and so, anyway, you come to a meeting, right?
Yes, sir.
Right, so, anyway, congratulations, Garth,
Thank you very much.
that's awesome. Did we give him a big hand? Let's give him a hand. That's great. All right. Are we ready?
Yes,
All
sir.
right. Brandon's gonna come and lead us in this. Just bring all your guns.
Okay.
How y'all doing tonight?
Okay.
Speaking of Mike here. All right, I'm Brandon. I'm grateful to be in recovery. And we're gonna be doing step 1, dangerous self-deception. And Bible reading is gonna be out of Judges 16, 1 through 31. And it says, we admitted that we were powerless over our problems and that our lives had become unmanageable. It says, when we refuse to admit our powerlessness, we are only deceiving ourselves.
Okay. Let's ask a question there. Can we ask a question there?
Yep.
I won't mess you up.
No, you're good.
You're good?
I was thinking about stopping there anyway.
Okay. Well, go ahead and stop.
Okay. Okay, go ahead.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, go ahead. Well, and then the awkward
I'm waiting on
silence.
you.
Okay. Well, my thought was, read that last sentence again.
It says, it says, when we refuse to admit our powerlessness, we are only deceiving ourselves.
Okay. So what are we talking about here tonight?
Deception,
Self-deception,
self-deception.
right? And the danger that it causes us,
Yes.
right? So, do you think anybody would refuse to admit that they were powerless?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Myself.
I did, when I first started going, in 2018, yeah, it wasn't until this year, when I was in, the rehab, that I had it explained to me a little bit better,
Uh-huh.
and I wholeheartedly agree with it now.
You agree with what?
That I'm powerless over my addiction,
Okay.
and therefore I should not entertain, just doing it once because, I can control it now.
Ah, okay.
Just because I'm,
So then, is that an example of being self-deceived?
Yep.
Yes.
That was a slow answer. So, do you know what I'm talking about?
me?
Yeah.
Yes, and when I first heard that though, I thought, well, I'm not really powerless because I'm here. And I can take steps to correct it. But I had it a little better explained, and that is what, that's not really it. It's, like, whenever I do it, I just, I'll just do it once. And I've always heard if you cheat on your wife once, it's easier the second time, it's even easier the third time, and then, it just, and that's what I experienced each time I would relapse.
Mm-hmm.
One is too many, two too few.
And and your point to the powerlessness doesn't mean that you have no power anywhere in your life, but pertaining to this situation, you, particularly when it seems to intensify on you, you stand helpless. It picks you up and carries you away. Does that sound about right?
I would
And-
agree.
And yes, and so you have we all have willpower, but and I'm kind of flipping this a little bit. We all have willpower, but the trouble is willpower is short-lived. We don't have very much of it. Even those of us that's got a lot of it. But actually, we only have a lot of it in particular areas that we practice a lot with it.
I would agree.
Okay, and so and the thing of it is, in our addiction, we don't have any willpower in it because it has always pulled, or flipped a switch, or rang the doorbell, or called on the phone, or just knocked on the. I used to have a lady that says, it knocks on the wall, my bedroom wall at night. So is it true that when we refuse to admit our powerlessness, we are deceiving ourselves? Is it true?
So, I mean, because, it's like I said, we have to admit first before we can get some
So
help.
in your, may I use you as an
Please do. Yes.
deal with this? I needed to ask first.
Yes.
In that state, because sometimes we confuse ourselves on purpose, and sometimes it's not on purpose, but sometimes it's a good excuse to be confused, right? So, hey, I'm not powerless, even though I can't manage my addiction. I'm not powerless, which is true, but you're arguing with yourself and you're setting yourself up. You're actually working on deceiving yourself to make yourself vulnerable to the situation. So, we all agree that it is true then, right? What did you wanted to say something on that?
I mean, like the recovery or the denial, it says refuse to admit our powerlessness, we only deceive ourselves. Well, we like to cover up. I like to cover up. I like to try to make,
But devoid,
get a void in my life and to,
avoid it, deny it, lie about it.
Yeah.
That's covering up, right?
so,
And would that be self-deception?
Yep.
Or even just trying to deceive others? Robert!
I've struggled with my addiction to gambling for 30 years. And many times I even admitted to myself I was powerless, but I think I was still lying to myself because I didn't stop. It didn't stop me. I just said, well, I'm powerless, but I'm gonna go do it. I'm gonna go gamble anyway.
I get it, I'm powerless, but
Let me
I
tell
wanna
you.
do it anyway.
Yeah.
That's some of that self-deception, like, I can manage it, I can hold on to it, I know I'm powerless, but it's gonna take all my money, it's gonna take all my paycheck, it's gonna take all the whole year's paycheck,
Yeah.
it's gonna eat
Took
my
me
lunch.
Retirement,
Uh,
take everything.
And then the next step is, after it sucks all your assets dry, then you have to start looking at getting into somebody else's assets.
Right.
And then
And I've done that too.
and
They've
then
done that.
and then the chances, because that's where it goes, right? And I'm not trying to be harsh or to be funny, because then nobody gets away with anything for very long. You may be able to keep it covered up for today, but you know, and then you have a chance of going to jail, right? And you don't have to talk about your situation. And so now, and I don't really want you to. But,
Okay.
you know,
Let me tell you one thing that most recently has helped me
Good.
more than anything
let's hear it.
is discovering a Gamblers Anonymous
Uh-huh.
group
Uh-huh.
where people, it's like, I've finally found a home, you know, where people understand the exact feelings that I've been through. And so now I've truly admitted that I'm powerless.
Good.
And it's taken a many, many years, but I've been 2 years clean now, so.
Congratulations.
But
That's great.
it was a long, difficult path to get there, let me tell you.
Well, our brain is not designed to make us happy, okay? It's trying to keep us safe, and the trouble is, it will go ahead and it will lie to us to keep us in those dark places because it's saying it's safer in here, okay? And but again, that's that self-deception. So that's great, but even though your particular facet of addiction, and you finding that's good, I congratulations. But it's all everybody's addiction, whatever it is, it comes from the same place of trying to to get the hit, the rush, the relief, to put us into that state of hopefully euphoria, or that euphoria I had the very first time that we never get to again, right? And but that doesn't keep us from trying, and we really don't even know that that's what's going on. But there's that internal hunger and drive and thirst that's pulling you that way, and it that's the reason why coming to a place and getting some understanding and seeing and hearing others and knowing you're not the only one.
Yeah.
So congratulations. Yeah. Go.
And I've been going to the Gamblers Anonymous for maybe a month or something, you know, because I just didn't just kind of like want to get myself kind of exposed to kind of all of it. And there's an individual there, and he said, well, you know, and he said, well, you know, I do blackjack and stuff, and I could kind of win. I had a little control, but eventually I didn't get the rush, and so I would get, you know, bigger bets, and then eventually I wound up over, you know, so that was at the GA. A few days later, I was at the Ozark Center at a counseling session, and there was a guy there who said the identical thing, you know, and I just found it so interesting that, you know, yeah, it's
But that's what we're talking about. That self-deception. You know, I can do one. Okay, I can handle this. Okay, I can do this. You know, nobody's going to know. It'll be all right. You know, I've been clean long enough. I can handle it. You know, and I can go where I know I shouldn't go because I'm untouchable. And again, that's self-deception.
I'm super Christian.
Yeah, so, you know, I've had, and you know, I've had people, I've talked with people that, I've talked with them in my office, and I talked to them about relapse, and they said, no, I'm not relapsing. I'll never relapse. Jesus has set me free. I said, well, I'm glad. I'm happy for that. But you need to prepare, because if you're not prepared, if you're not aware, the enemy's going to come and get you, right? And this particular, and he's not the only one, but there's been several, got mad at me because, you know, I wouldn't line up with that, because that's a form of self-deception, even though it sounds really great,
sure.
okay? And I want it for him, And,
And I would say they wanted at that moment
oh,
too.
they
you know,
wanted to, and,
yeah.
you know, but he was cleaning out something in somebody's place and found the
Uh-oh.
pipe and, you know, just had to try it again. And then he came back several years after our time was talking and apologized and said, you were right. And so this self-deception is very subtle. And we all, including me, we all have some. Okay? Lord, help us see it. Amen?
Amen.
Okay, take off.
All right. Just kind of looked up powerlessness in the Webster's dictionary, and it's on power, but it says ability to do or to act. Authority person or trying to thing having authority. Well, powerlessness is the ability not to have that. And so, you know, I've got, and then I like reading here, in step 1 profile here. It talks about, we admitted we were powerless, admitting that something or someone has beaten us up or is more powerful than our own will confronts our pride, so we keep on acting out in our dependency and addiction, trying to prove that we can control it. Just like that Doug had talked about. And so I think that we have to realize that, like you said, powerlessness over here in page 2, it says Barry learned that powerlessness did not mean helplessness, and that he could take action such as attending meetings,
Yes.
having a sponsor, reading recovery literature, and drawing close to God. As he took action on what he was able to do, he could amend his powerlessness over alcohol. And for me, you know, powerlessness, I knew I couldn't handle it. I knew I couldn't. I knew if I picked up again, you know, as it says here, and we're talking about it, it says that the lies we tell ourselves and others are familiar. Kind of going on this, it says I can stop anytime I want to.
How many of you have ever said that one or know somebody that said that? Okay, all right. Okay, go ahead.
And then it says also, I'm in control. This one won't hurt anything.
Yeah,
Well, I've
anybody?
said that many times.
Yes, yeah, anybody else?
Other,
Yeah, know somebody? Go ahead.
and then all the while we're inching closer to disaster. You know, and so there's some areas that I've really got to be cautious and aware. There's a couple of areas gotta really be inclined with, and brings with the addiction if I act out in that. And so it's just learning, you know, but like I said, the willpower, I mean, I know once that addiction, I do have the willpower to say yes or say no. I mean, but a lot of times if I put myself in vulnerable situations, as we all know, it's gonna come backfire on us, and it does every time. Hey, I went out there thinking, as maybe y'all have done, I'm gonna try to help somebody, or I'm gonna try to talk to them about coming to get recovery, and then all of a sudden, sooner or later, I'm back out there, and I'll take this, or and all of a sudden I'm, you know, and maybe not even my problem, the drinking issue. It's just then I'm back on the fight. You know?
Yep.
So it's just
Because it's
So-
kind of like playing blackjack when you don't have any trouble. It can push you to the next thing, right? And because it has a negative effect on us. And if you're susceptible to it, and particularly in particular areas, that means it's, you can be affected much easier. Oh, what about this excuse? Well, if they can do it, why can't I? How about that one? Anybody ever said that one? How many times have I heard that one? It's not fair. They can do it, right? Well, you can do it too if you want to destroy your life, right? Isn't that true? Isn't that true?
And they might be able to actually do it, but you know something? I can't.
They might,
I can't.
but the fact of it is, there's a reason why they decided they shouldn't, right? And but you know, that's, I don't know if I said this, but I remember one person says, "It's not fair." I said, well, it may not be fair, but you know, you have to deal with things the way they are. Isn't that right? You have to play your game.
And I think if you're humble and you and enjoy life, you know, you accept it with, you know, and not be greedy, what have you, it's easier to not have those kind of thoughts, you know.
Well, those thoughts start slipping in, and it's a long cycle. Okay, it starts coming in, and we need to be aware of those things. And even the Scripture talks about casting down every imagination and every high thing that exalts itself. Right? It starts pushing its way in, and if you entertain poisonous thoughts, it seems to grab its cousins and bring them along too. You know what I mean? Go ahead, Brandon.
Okay. And it says Samson, and I'll go ahead and go on with this. It says Samson was one of Israel's judges. As a child, he had been dedicated to God, and God had gifted him with supernatural strength. And Samson,
I want to interrupt you here because this was a judge. This was a judge in Israel. So he was. There wasn't anybody else in Israel higher than him in Israel at this time, and where he was at. He was a judge. Okay, all right. He was ordained, picked out. He was the big preacher guy. Okay, you follow me? And so. And he was anointed. He had it. Okay? He had that. But just because he had that didn't mean there wasn't something else that had him. That's our point here, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right?
It affects everyone.
We're all human. Go ahead.
but Samson had a lifelong weakness. The way he related to women.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I've never used anyone in the Bible that didn't have a weakness.
Right. Because we're all human. You know, we're all flawed.
And God's plans would a lot of times would eventually they'd get rid of the weakness, but God would use the weakness in the ministry that they were doing for him.
Right? So I wonder if he would have been involved with pornography if he was if they had. I bet you they had pornography. Come to think about it.
If they were paintings, I would imagine.
Yeah, you know. Yeah, I don't know. It just kind of came to me. That's
Sure.
one of those questions.
Thank you for sharing it.
Go ahead, Brandon.
Says that it says Samson was especially blind. It says Samson was especially blinded to the dangers that he faced in his relationship with Delilah.
Hey, now I want to point out this word blind or blinded. We call them nowadays blind spots. Trouble is, when you have a blind spot, you don't know that you have it because you can't see a blind spot because you're blind to the blind spot, right? You know, you have when you're driving, you have blind spots in your car, and there can be stuff there that you can't see.
A big old truck.
Right.
Mhm.
And you have to be, if we're smart, we need to know, hey, I have a blind spot here and I need to shift, I need to move, I need to turn, I need to have an extra mirror there, one of those little fisheye things or something to help me to see my blind spot. But sometimes we have blind spots and we don't know we have them because you can't see what you don't know. But that doesn't mean they can't get a hold of you. So, should we deceive ourselves and say, well, if I can't see it, it don't matter?
No.
No. You know how we do that?
So,
If I can't see it, it don't matter? I'll stick my head in the sand, and that way it'll all be okay.
self-deception.
Yeah,
Ostrich approach.
yeah. So we're talking about blind spots, self-deception. We're talking about lying to ourselves, and you know, oftentimes we'll hide stuff from ourselves on purpose. I had a guy, I helped him turn in a lab, a meth lab. But I didn't find out till years later that he just kept back a little bit of it just in case. I mean, he was going clean, but he didn't let it all go. He took out a reservation for later.
Just in case.
And the case came up.
Wait, he knew it was going to.
Well, yes, I agree, but he deceived himself saying that it wasn't.
Sure.
And you know, I'm not saying that he wasn't sincere in what he was doing. The only trouble is, even when we're sincere, we can still deceive ourselves. Isn't that true?
Yes.
Isn't that true?
Yeah, that is true. No, it's not. I just said it. Yeah, it is.
Go ahead.
Okay, it says his enemies were paying her to discover the secret of his strength. It says 3 times she begged Samson to tell her his secret. Each time, it says each time she set him up and tried to hand him over to the enemy. 3 times Samson lied to her and was able to escape, but each time he got closer to telling her the truth. Finally, Samson revealed his secret and was taken captive, and he died a slave in the enemy's hands. Samson's real problem can be found in the lies he told himself. By not admitting his powerlessness, he remained blind to the obvious danger of that his pride and desire for beautiful foreign women were leading him into. Said this caused him to gradually inch his way toward an untimely death. We need to be careful too not to fall into a similar trap. As we learn to acknowledge our powerlessness over our addictive, compulsive tendencies daily, we will become more aware of behaviors that will likely lead us to destruction. So, just kind of on that note, you know, the unmanageability says that our lives have become unmanageable as I know me, I was totally, just a side note, I guess, that sometimes I had still things, but there's lots of things that I still, you know, for me, I always threw it away, all of it. You know, most of the time when I went out, it was no more job, most of the time.
All right.
There's been years back where I had a function in it and was still going to work, still making the deal, but I didn't want people to see me all jacked up, spun out, and just I felt guilt, shame, remorse, all those things, and so it just it's just unmanageability that I've had every time I went out. It just most of the time it's always gotten like this last time I went out. It was kind of a short-lived, thankfully not in jail, thankfully not, I had a praying wife that first time she ever seen anything like that before. It about broke her in two. And, but I just thank God for a praying mother, wife, the church. I mean, just thankful that God's mercy and grace was there, because man, we had a family member that sad deal. Killed a guy 47 years of age in Southwest City here this week. Just drunk behind the wheel. Just a sad ordeal. 21 years of age.
Wow.
And sad deal. And so there's no telling. Anyway, with that note, thanks for letting me share.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks. Well, Willie's coming, the story here of Samson, he pointed out two different issues, and you know the two?
With Samson,
Yeah, with Samson.
women, I guess.
Women was one.
And I don't know the other.
Actually, it was foreign women was one. And the other one was lying. Okay? So he was, now listen to this, he was involved with her, and she was selling him out. Can you believe that? The government, okay, of that area, and I know I did some studying on this. There were several of them that said they'd pay her 19 shekels of gold or silver. I don't remember. Not maybe it was 90. Come to think about it, and there was like 5 of them. So that's a lot of money she was going to get, and so she, of course, she was a prostitute, right? And so they made a deal with her so they could get the secret, okay? Because he was an embarrassment to them. He wasn't part of their country, and he took their gates and tore them off their city walls and carried them up on top of the hill, and they couldn't handle him, so they just wanted the secret. So here was a guy, and she says, "Oh, you say you love me, but you won't. You keep lying to me." Well, as he pointed out, each time he lied, he got a little closer to his secret, until the 4th time he went on and told her the secret. So he evidently had a pattern of that also. That's my point. So oftentimes we have multiple things going on in our life. We just don't have one. Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
Hello?
Yes, sir.
So that was that point there. And this was the guy that, and he had taken a vow to God that he would not cut his hair. And he hadn't cut since he was born. And that was a vow. It was a Nazarite vow, and it was, and so he knew that when that happened, he had violated that. Now, I don't know if if God's Spirit lifted off of him, because he said he woke and he shook himself, didn't know that it was gone. But oftentimes we judge ourselves when we know we've done wrong. Anybody know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
And so whether it was conscious or unconsciously, he was in that situation. But he repented after they gouged his eyes out and made him grind the corn. He come to the place, it gave him an opportunity to separate himself from all of his stuff. Okay? You know what I mean? And get connected, reconnected. And when he did that, he knew. He knew that he was back in that place. And so he was able then to, well, the Bible says he killed more in his death. He killed more of the enemy in his death than he did in his life that day. So anyway, so I just wanted to point out the fact of it here is, just because you even have a position of spiritual authority, or in fact even the anointing, doesn't mean that you're not susceptible. Because if you lie to yourself, if you deceive yourself, you're setting yourself up. And so,
I don't know if I'm a pessimist, but I think everyone has something of weakness. And I say, well, I don't know, maybe Mother Teresa didn't, you know, but I bet she did, you know, I mean, so I'm kind of,
yeah, and I've already agreed with that statement earlier.
yeah, you know,
And because we're all susceptible. Even Apostle Paul in Romans chapter 7 says that I would do, I don't do. Okay, and because see, we have to get this human spirit under control and get in alignment with God's spirit, that will, that higher nature, and it takes some work, and it takes some willingness. It takes some to let go of our selfishness, our self-will, our pride. Now, we're going to talk about pride here when we get into the questions, and when we get there, we'll talk a little more about pride, and I'm going to talk about good pride and bad pride. So I'll shut up right now and let Willie go ahead and hit some of the questions. Or anything else you want to do.
Question 1. What's the longest time I have been able to stop addictive behaviors or using addictive substances?
never for me, I think. And it's not just drugs, but it's something that seems to,
For me, it was from the end of the first one till the time I was ready to do it again. That's the longest that it's been. Back when I was, you know. The self-deception hit me harder than what the actual addiction would have. Because I faced, you know, on that one. I've lied to myself many a times. I've been in situations where if I didn't like your answer, I tried to change your mind or one way or another. And that just got me further deeper in the hole.
Garth, I like your statement there a moment ago, and I think there's some real truth in that, and so I just wanted to say that.
Do you think the selfishness is innate, or do you think it's a learned behavior?
Well, when do we first start seeing selfishness?
The terrible twos. It's mine, get it.
Even before that.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't got much to give up.
This is some of my evidence.
Uh-huh.
Okay, and because the reason why I say that, because it's part of our survival mechanism to to help ourselves to stay alive, to survive. And we have to do that to be able to do it. And when you're a baby, you don't have any power. All right, so you have to use whatever tools you can to do that. And then as we get older, we're supposed to gain skills and recognize that. And in fact, Jordan Peterson says that if we don't learn by the age of 4 or 5 years old how to control our impulses, then we are going to be out of control the rest of our life.
I read that in like a psychology class, and that floored me. Yeah. But why are we? Why is it that way? Like, why are we scared, or are we greedy or something from the get-go? And we have to, I'm just wondering.
We are, well, then if we didn't have the survival mechanism that's hardwired into us, then that means we die. That means we won't be here. But if we have a system that's hardwired into us that helps us to reach a certain level, and then we understand that we have to then begin to learn some emotional control and emotional mastery, then, and grow up and realize that it's not always about avoiding pain and seeking pleasure. It's about stepping into pain and gaining skills and learn how to grow. And those are all transitional moves as we develop. And not all of us make all those moves. And sometimes we make them, some make them at 15 and 20, 35 and 40, some at 60, and some maybe later than that, if you know what I mean. So, the rest of my answer to this, I wasn't there on the design of this thing. And I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying, hey, since it is the way it is, we have to accept reality the way that it is. It works out better for us, even though you don't have to like it, but we have to accept it. Does that make sense?
And this was the first time I have ever kind of seen it that way.
Well,
Yeah.
congratulations. Why? How could you see it this way this time?
It's just, well, I guess I'm just listening, and thinking, it just seems like, I was telling him about some cases that was in Miami involving DuPont and stuff like that, and so I went to look at the case and show him, and there's a whole bunch of them. Point is, people do some really, I don't know, mean or interesting things. I don't know, it's just, but anyhow, I don't keep the floor, but yeah, it's just kind of interesting how we start, I guess he wants us to grow so that when we reach heaven, that we, I don't know, bring a lot of knowledge with us. I don't know.
Well, I think I think we're going to be learning stuff when we get there, okay? But the fact of it is, I think it has more to do with, as I opened up this in the beginning of this, that it's about relationship and being willing to have that connection and be willing to grow in that, because my biggest one of my what I say is one of my biggest problems right now is there's so much to learn, and I can't. Every time I learn something, I find out all the other stuff that I didn't know before I learned that, and I can't. It's frustrating, and so sometimes I have to talk myself down off that ledge. And I know that's a little sidetracked, but the fact of it is, as we continue to learn and grow, I see, I understand, and I have a greater appreciation and awe for what God has done, because we don't even understand a fathom of everything that's going on. We don't, I mean, researchers still don't know all about the body. They don't know all about the brain. They're learning stuff all the time, and it goes for all kinds of other stuff. And because information is doubling, I think I just heard it's every 6 months now. So it's, I mean, that's unreal, you know. And who am I to think I can keep up with anything? I can't. But I made a deal with God many years ago that I wanted to learn and I wanted to understand the powers so that I could help other people with that power. And so that's part of what I try to do. And so that's where we're at. And I think it's awesome that you have the frustration, because not only are you frustrated, but you're also curious. And so, and that's awesome. You know, Willie's always asking me questions about stuff, and there was a day that he didn't ask those type of questions.
Yeah.
You know, and so, and when we do that, we're learning, we're growing, we're developing, we gain more skills, and then we're more apt to be able to help others that cross our path.
Hopefully it builds empathy and humbleness, you know.
Well, that has to be our choice, and if we don't do that, then we'll run into some hard places to help us to figure out, I need to do that, in my opinion. And usually situations come which is kind of referred to nowadays as the dark night of the soul. And that's where we deal with our own stuff that we need to work out that's been a block, or what we might say is a blind spot, as we're referring to today. I didn't know, you know, oftentimes people, and myself included, you know, I didn't realize everybody knew that about me. You know, I was hiding that. But now, find out everybody knew it anyway. You know, and isn't that the way that it is?
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, Willie. Shut up, Doug.
Question two. What are some of the reasons I use for starting my behavior? Slow down. What were some of the reasons I used for starting my behaviors or substance abuse again?
So what were some of the reasons? That's the question.
Right.
Or maybe we should say excuses.
Stress is a lot of my reasons.
Stress.
Yeah, I said it a lot of
Yeah. So it's so
Neighbors doing
talk about that a little bit. Stress.
Oh, I used to say stress was the reason why I was drinking, but,
So was it? Well, expound on that for me, please.
well, that's how I worked at a hospital. When I started drinking, I've been drinking since I was 13, I'm 43 now, but it was always social drinking, hanging out with buddies and stuff, and then, my husband started doing drugs that I didn't like him doing, and so I started drinking and getting into his vodka, and I would just blame it on stress, and I'm stressed out, and I'm mad, stressed out, getting this, and so it became where I stressed out. I was saying I was stressed out, so I could drink and focus on my drinking problem and not my kids, so.
Would you say that again?
I was saying I was stressed out because that was my excuse to keep drinking.
I was stressed, so that was my excuse to keep drinking. So
Yeah,
that was your excuse or reason
yeah,
for drinking,
yeah,
and to somehow
not focus on the kids or.
so to kind of blur things out,
Yeah.
numb things out, hide from everything,
Yeah, go into my little,
and
but then I would also sit there and he would be on dope and I would be like, well, crappy father, that you're not going to you're not doing their concession stands, you're not going to their track and field days, you're not doing this, you're not doing that. But then I was also going to all that stuff with drinking a couple shots of vodka, so. I wasn't taking accountability for my
So,
actions.
so you were also, you had another excuse, I'm better than you,
Yeah, pretty much,
I'm better than you,
yeah,
and so I compare myself to the worst, so I feel better.
yeah.
Yeah. And how did this work out for you?
We lost our businesses, I lost my job, I landed in Joplin.
I'm sorry
From
about that.
Lamar. But I've been humbled, so I work at the Souls Harbor and, yeah.
Awesome. And so you're aware of some of those blind spots now.
Oh, yeah. I'm not the little big shot I thought I was back in the day. I like to say I was like that snobby person. Get out of my seat from this person.
So you were that sweet, snobby person and you were proud of it.
Yeah,
It's,
That can slip up on a scanner.
yeah,
It can.
yeah. So, you know.
And we can even do that in a religious sense, too.
Yeah.
John, you said something?
it's amazing that, when we start in our addictions, we find things that we say are the reasons we're in addictions. But when we get out of our addictions, we can honestly say that that is what I've done so I could drink or could drug or could whatever.
Very well put.
My reason I done it.
Very well put. That's good.
Yeah,
In other words, you know if if you know from the get-go, if you don't stress, you're not gonna drink or you're not gonna drug or you're not gonna do whatever.
yeah,
And so to get in that position, you get yourself stressed over whatever it is, maybe something little or something big, but whatever it is, you get yourself stressed and have a reason to drink or drug or whatever.
So you're saying you possibly set up a system
You
to
set-
cause
you
the
set yourself
stress?
loose. Set yourself loose.
Okay.
yeah.
But, you know, the thing of it is, we need to realize too that when we're talking about some of these things, I want to throw this out, this is what we did, but it never was who you are.
We're not our people.
We're not our addictions, okay? We're much more than that, way more than that. And we are to return to who we are, not what we did, okay? We can let that go and be forgiven. We can be forgiven, and then we need to forgive ourselves. Right?
Yeah.
Everybody agree with that? Anybody disagree with that?
That's the hardest person to forgive is ourselves.
I know. But, in Doug's opinion, that's the most important one.
I agree.
And when we're talking about self-forgiveness, you know, we are talking about extending God's forgiveness towards ourselves. We receive it. You know, we don't, because that power lies outside of us. That's what the higher power is all about, right? That we are able to receive that power to let it go. Okay, that's what I did, but that's not who I am.
Yeah.
So, go ahead, Willie.
Question 3. What are the things I think I can control?
I can or cannot?
I can.
Oh, thank you.
What's the things I think I can control?
Wait a minute, I think we ought to talk about that.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Well, that question refers back to your making up your excuses for doing your addiction. Oh, I can control it, so 1 ain't gonna kill me. 2 ain't gonna hurt me. 3 just makes me feel better. After 4, you know, who cares after that? You're back into it. And that's the way it is. How do I lie to myself? And about what? Well, right there, I just said it. 1 ain't gonna hurt me, 2 gonna kill me, so. And eventually, it puts you where you don't Don't matter anymore.
I'm gonna jump in here and I'm going to tie that in with what Delilah did. Delilah came the first time, all right, and he pushed her back with a lie. That's like it's like our addiction that talks to it. It comes once, it comes twice, it comes 3 times, it comes 4 times. In fact, it'll keep coming because when he pushed her back, he didn't really separate himself. He came back another night. He kept coming back, right? We're just going to go see our friends. We're just going to go hang out at the bar or go down to the, shooting gallery or,
Or the
casino or blah 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 blah, right? And why? Because my friends are there and that will make me feel better or something make me feel better, but it's inch by inch by inch, and that's exactly what happened to Samson, right? That's exactly what happened with David, right? That's what exactly happened to all of us, right? Okay, go ahead, Billy.
What's so, sorry, what's so scary about telling the truth? It's a good thinking question right there.
Oh, it's a powerful question. It is
Surely one I really want to answer.
yeah.
I want you to see me the way that I want to be, not who I am.
That's where that pride starts kicking in, was that question right there.
And that's when you should realize that you're not, on a good path.
Yeah, you're right. You're right there.
Mhm.
So what's so scary about telling yourself the truth? How about that?
Because you know you're going to lie to yourself
Oh,
about
you
it.
might lie yourself. I can't handle it. It's overwhelming. It's too much. And then and that's that self-deception that we're talking about there. It's too hard. Some information that I have, and I'm not going to get to it, but it was on something from Psychology Today talking about 7 lies that we lie to ourselves, and one of them is the doctor said, psychologist said, we tell ourselves I can't, and she said that is we're lying to ourselves because we're afraid we're going to fail. And really when it comes down to it, we don't want to, so we just say we can't. And when we lie to ourselves, we poison. This is my statement. We poison our own soul. Okay. She says it'd be far better to say I don't want to instead of saying I can't, because reality is you can do whatever you choose to do if you really choose it and stick with it. Trouble is, we need to not lie to ourselves. And she said that making that shift in your statement, I don't want to, actually empowers you instead of draining power from you. When you say, I can't. Okay, so why does the truth scare us so much? Our own truth. Why does it scare us? Because we want to hide. Hey, Adam and Eve did the same thing, right? So we come by it honestly, okay, all right, but it's something that we get to deal with, all right? And that's choosing, when they ran and hid, God went looking for them, and he spoke to them, said, Adam, Adam, where are you? Now, God knew where they were. Why did he do that? I personally think he did that to give them an opportunity to respond, to come, instead of continue hiding. And that's that admitting, turning around, coming back. That's so important for all of us.
I get kind of a thrill, I must admit, telling people, I'm an addict, I got on meds. However, for me to maintain that, I have to stop and I have to turn it around and I have to do something with it. I have to make it a lesson and not let it defeat me.
Amen.
Because I want to get to that point where say, and you can too, because boy, it's not easy to stop once you start,
Would a change of mind begin in saying, I have been an addict for all of my life, but I am working on not being an addict the rest of my life?
I don't see a problem with that, but see, and that lines up with my statement. That's what I did,
Yeah.
but that's not who I am. Okay? And I'm gonna get better. And so, and that's how I view it, because there was things in my own life that I felt so bad about and disliked that I would punish myself, about it. But I had to come to the place that I had to be willing to let that go and realize that's what I did, but that's not who I am. And was able to start to see that's what I did. Not that I like it. I wish I didn't, but that's what I did. But it has positioned me to be where I am right now.
What I learned from it was amazing.
I don't want to do it again.
No.
I don't want anybody
way.
else to do it.
No way.
That's kind of what I was talking to you when I got back into recovery about, as far as, you asked me, what did I learn?
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of thought on that, but as far as on that light, I don't necessarily, and I'm not gonna bring a big deal on the one side, always an addict and all that deal, but as far as, do we always have to work these steps? Is these something that I'll always have to do for the rest of my life? And, because I've seen people in even my first rehab, in 2004, seen a guy get instantly delivered, never ever had the temptation to ever use again. But then there's some people that's, like you have talked about, the process. And I think for me, that's kind of what, because after, before I relapsed this last time, God reminded me of the steps. I'm thinking, I've always, been in the Bible, been, going to church, that's possibly enough. But it's.
Well, a few years ago, I'd have a different answer than I have right now. But the answer I have right now is, it really depends. See, because we are a mechanism machine, okay? And we able to control some parts of this machine, but there's a lot of parts we can't control. We can affect some parts, but we have other stuff that we can't control. And one of the things that drives us a lot is our nervous system. Okay? And we have stuff in our nervous system that got there early in childhood, and we may not even know that it's there, but it affects us. And this individual you're talking about that got delivered, he may have been able somehow to alter that nervous system. This is just a theory, okay, I don't know, but this is my speculation from things I've learned, but that somehow he was able to transform some of that energy that's in his nervous system he was stuck in, because when they're talking about in your brain, when you're trying to go from short-term memory to long-term memory, and what they call about crossing over the bridge and being able to transform that and being able to shift that over, it's shifting of energies. And I know that's a bunch of stuff, not that I even understand all of that, but it's what I'm saying is complex. So my answer right now is, until we are totally transformed, even into our nervous system, then we have to continue to walk the principles that we know that's safe. And when we think that I no longer need to do that, how many people have we seen that said that very same thing? And was it arrogance? Or was it something else? Was it, self-deception? You know, we're, I guess I'm just saying, we gotta be careful, okay? Because thank God for second chances. But we know others, the window finally closed. And we don't know when that window is gonna shut.
Everything done in the dark comes to light. And so for me, it's, I feel there's going to be a time, and the way I kind of envision it is God standing there and I'm here, and he's like, okay, and I want at that time to have I was given a lot of blessings. I grew up poor and stuff, but that I have a lot of blessings, and I'm so grateful for that. And I think if I throw it away, it's just so selfish because so many other people would want it, and I can't just throw it away, So that's kind of a big motivating factor for me,
Good. That's awesome. That's awesome. And so that's my best thoughts at this time, and which means you talk to most scientists, they got more questions than answers, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if they're science, they do have more questions. But the fact of it is, that's life. That's the way it is.
Thank you.
Okay, Willie. What else, big dog?
As I explore powerlessness, what blind spots have I discovered? Basically, it showed how my addiction controlled me instead of the other way around. I mean, hey, look how you were doing this, look how you were doing that, and that's, lead me to say, okay, I don't want to be that way anymore on that.
It's good.
And then, question 6. What are the results of pride in my life?
What were the results that, I'm sorry?
The results of pride in your life.
Oh. You can trip over pride.
Yeah. Pride could get you in trouble quick. That's why I was hoping to hear what you have to say on that.
Well,
I'm gonna turn it over to you now.
Well, like I said earlier, pride is something that we, the scripture out of Proverbs 16:18 says, "Pride goes before destruction, and a haughty spirit before the fall." And we all know that, but at the same time, we know there is some good pride and there's some bad pride. Okay, and what does that mean? And that's where this falls. This haughty spirit is easier to understand. We understand that. That's somebody that's arrogant, that's maybe even insulting. They think they're better than everybody else, or maybe they're not better than everybody else, but you're less than they are, type of thing. And we understand the haughty spirit really easy. This pride that we're talking about here is this pride that is more of a self-pride, that, I'm a self-made man, okay? But the fact of it is, that's very arrogant. Oftentimes we know that some of that means is that they have come up from nothing. But the fact of it is, as you said a while ago, Garth, that I started off poor, but I've had a lot of blessings. And what that's saying is that I'm proud of where I'm at, but I know how I got there, and that our participation with the divine has helped me to get where I'm at, and that would be confidence, okay. And sometimes we we see confidence in a different way. We see pride, but pride, when it's a healthy form of pride, it can be a healthy form of self-confidence. And knowing that, you know, I can say I know a lot of things, but I don't know everything.
Well, there's a lot I don't.
There's a lot I know, and the more I find out, I don't know. Okay, and
The more I learn, the dumber I realize I am.
yeah,
You know.
and I think Socrates said the same thing. Okay, and so he was pretty sharp guy, you know, and so the arrogance, and primarily the sense that I think I'm better than somebody else, is some of that self-pride that we're talking about that's bad, okay? But knowing that Apostle Paul kind of said this way, I am what I am. I know whose I am. And he knew that he was God. He knew he was intelligent, he was sharp, but sometimes he would try to use his intelligence instead of being divinely led, and that ran into some problems. And so, but we all have to learn. We have skills and talents and gifts, and we can either use them directed by our will, or we can choose to let God direct us. And it works out better for us, by the way, if we let God direct us.
Yep.
But part of our lifelong lesson is learning how to do that, in my opinion.
And I've been trying to think about the difference between pride and proud. When we were talking, I think it's okay to be proud, but pride seems to have a negative connotation. You know, I don't know.
Right?
And
Well, I looked it up, and I looked up several different things, and trying to be able to find a way to, I mean, I feel like you, like the sense I got from you right there is we seem to have a knowing, understanding exactly how that all fits. But sometimes just because we kind of have that sense, we're not always able to communicate it. But I think we all have some of that. Do we not agree? And so, Lord, help us with our understanding, right? So, we're way past time. I figured we'd be short tonight because we didn't have the band, but you guys talk too much.
but because you have such insightful things that make me think.
Oh, well, that's good.
Yeah,
Thank you, thank you. Well, may the Lord bless you and keep you, and may His face shine upon you and give you peace, right? And make healthy choices, right?
Yes, sir.
I'll take you.